as has been brilliantly explained by this panel, Taiwan is definitely a successful, extraordinarily model for Cuba's future. And now we're going to open the panel and the seminar for questions. We would love to be precise, close, no filibustering in the questioning. So we are open for questions.
It could be pretty difficult, but
yes, please.
Hi, I'm Doreen Hemlock. I'm a reporter with the Sun Sentinel at the Cuban Institute. Can somebody from Taiwan explain a little bit about how Chiang Kai-shek's son decided to become more democratic, and to what extent the fact that the mainlanders were not the majority influenced that decision? Because that's a big difference with Cuba.
okay.
Who wants to give the answer?
Yeah, Professor Cao, you're talking about the Jiang Jingguo's decision. I mean, he's much more. I mean, it's probably both of us. How about is that possible? We collect more questions.
Please, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
No.
You should repeat the question because they don't listen.
Should we have to collect more questions?
Yeah. But we should start the answer.
Okay.
We should start the
You
answer.
start. 你先来，高老师，你别，你不要这个，
Please.
没关系。你先嘛，来，really。
Dr. Cao.
他是说蒋经国的态度为什么会跟蒋介石不太一样？还有尤其对中国大陆的因素，尤其他刚才问到大陆因素。
Okay, let me explain. In this way, I just talk about there are two momentum coming together to forward the democratization in Taiwan in the past at least the 20 to almost 20 years. Yes, so the one momentum is from bottom up. President Jiang Jingguo, while facing the challenge of the legitimacy of KMT's rule, much more serious than the rule of the President Chiang Kai-shek. So he had to change. Otherwise, the KMT may have lost its ruling power earlier. So we think that the President Jiang Jingguo actually did the right response to challenge from the society, especially from the political opposition. So I didn't talk the part of the DPP formation. The Professor Wu Chongli already mentioned that part. Jiang Jingguo just turned his eyes blind. You know, the DPP formed 1 year before the left of the martial law. Yeah.
Professor, yes.
Yeah. I can agree, Professor Cao more. Luckily, I still have my slides right here. Well, I would say that is an excellent question. I would say that Jiang Jingguo, we cannot consider him to be tend to tolerant of political oppositions. I mean, in his whole life. Actually, in his early time when he in charge of the political parties, actually he still follow his father's way, tend to suppress the political oppositions. For example, there are two serious conflicts between the KMT and the political oppositions, which happened in 1977, what we call the Zhongli incident. Another one will be 1979 Kaohsiung incidents. But after that, he has to tend to tolerate the political leaders, which I mentioned right over here. I mean, he tried to use the strategy of repression That is the strategy his father, Chiang Kai-shek, used. And then he tried to mobilize. It means that tend to much more tolerate the political oppositions. And then on the other hand, he tried to negotiate with the political leaders within the opposition party. So, and he also has some limited admission and to let the political oppositions to running for the elections. Although they cannot have the normal title, they cannot have the title by the name of party, but what we call is a kind of a 党外. What we call 党外 means without the party. The party, of course, means KMT. You know, so is that only one party? I mean, when the Taiwan's authoritarian rule, actually no, they are two minor parties. But those two parties, we consider them kinds of political decorations only. Thank you very much. Yeah, but I like your question.
Yes. Yes.
To what degree was there a nascent nationalist movement in Taiwan before the Japanese imperialist design and the mainlanders and the KMT coming in after the Chinese Civil War? And the second part of the question is, was that nationalist, nascent, if there is, nascent nationalist movement in Taiwan, did that somehow went underground and later crop up as the definitive party of dissent under Lee's administration?
Yeah.
To you.
我不会再听他是提到说这个
nationalism
那什么是那
对，
个作用
就是民族主义在日本。
Let me see. Yeah, actually, you raised a very good question about the Taiwan's nationalism. It's a very complicated question, you know, and also it's hard to answer. To my opinion, I actually doubt that is there the nationalism in Taiwan. We have talked even I mean the scholars from Taiwan this time. We are talking about the national identity and the state identity. What does that mean? Let me use the other way to explain your question. Concerning about the identity, we ask the people in Taiwan, are you Chinese or are you a Taiwanese? And always we got so different answers. Even you ask me, let me tell you my case, okay? My mother is the mainlanders, and my father is Taiwanese. So if you ask me about the national identity related to the nationalism, I might reply to you, I'm a Chinese. But if you are specific to ask me about the state identity, I will say that I'm a Taiwanese.
Good. Dr. Jaime?
One of the many problems that Cuba faces is the role of the military. Unlike Taiwan, the military is supreme in Cuba, and the parties seem to be secondary to the military. Not only that, the military is also involved in running significant sectors of the Cuban economy. So, any lessons on how to reduce the power of the military,
Good question.
lower the power of the military, and get the civilians to run the country?
You want me to
Me?
Yeah. So about the structure of the military.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
People.
Well, actually, too many good questions. So little time to talk about. You know, do you mind I answer that question? You know, Taiwan is we have the mixed history. Taiwan used to be the colony of the Netherlands. I mean, in 16th century, and then after that, there is a guy. His name is Kosinka. I mean, he occupied the Taiwan. He took Taiwan back from the Holland government, and then he running for Taiwan about 100 years. correct me if I'm wrong. And after that, the Qing dynasty ruled Taiwan, and after that, as I mentioned, Taiwan, the China government decided to give it to Japan government, and then took it back in 1945. So Taiwan, we have the complicated history. We have a kind of the very complex nationalism. So as the Professor Cao just mentioned, nationalism is a pretty excellent question. Actually, that is only kinds of a social cleavage within Taiwan, what we call the Taiwanese people and mainlanders. And another one thing, the lady just mentioned, especially the relations between the Taiwan and mainland China. All right. The critical issue in Taiwan, of course, right now is Taiwan independence or China reunification. All right. Back to that issue, I would say that is a critical issue. Most of the third wave countries, they have to face, especially the political role of military in the process. They always play a critical role, in the political process. And how can the KMT solve the problem? And I would say that Chiang Ching-kuo, he is pretty smart. He tried to decrease the power, especially the role of the members within the Central Standing Committee, the members with the military background. Of course, they were the policy sometimes backfired, right? Of course, the military always so conservative. They are hardliners. They are not willing to give their power back to some civilians or bureaucracy, of course. Any good strategy? Any good strategy? I would say elections.
Yeah.
Probably, any political leaders, they still face the pressures from elections.
Yes.
So they can appeal to the general public, tend to decrease the powers of the military. I think that is probably the one strategy they use to decrease the powers of the military.
May I just add the one thing to the Dr. Slisky, right? Yeah. Even the army, in the past elections, they have had their nominee running for public post. And, they have been very, very sure that their candidates, very, very often have won the public post in the past. But right now, it's different. Now the political force, the influence from the army, the military, is right now decreasing, even in the ending the election of the public post. So I think that's the way out. Yeah, the prayer from the military to the civilian government, they can join them.
Thank you. We have one last question, please.
I do it in Spanish.
Yes.
¿En qué medida la...
In what measure? Yo solo voy a traducir.
¿En qué medida la ayuda y la inversión norteamericana
In what measure the
peso
investment, the American investment?
de Taiwán? ¿Y en qué medida la relación político-militar norteamericana coadyuvó a la apertura democrática?
In what measure the U.S. helped economically and military help in the development of Taiwan?
Right. Sure, of course. Yeah.
They will answer in English.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that question.
Or China.
I think the question.
Yeah. She also. How about? Can we collect one more question?
Yeah, okay.
Running out of time.
Yeah, people raise their hands over there.
Yes. But do you want to answer? Or you
Yeah,
want to vote?
collect.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I was just curious. I think Taiwan would be an excellent model for Cuba. I'm just curious about how the succession is expected to take place. I got here a little early, and I was reading Dr. Suchliki's excellent piece on the Cuba-Venezuela challenge, and it sounds to me like General Raul Castro is not a very much like Jiang Jingguo. He seems to be very resistant to the idea of surrendering power and very interested in relying on China and Russia, who would certainly not be interested in having free elections in Cuba. And are there organized groups that would overthrow the government? Can you expect a new leader who would be more like Jiang Jingguo? I'd love to hear somebody address that question.
Okay, and please, yes, Ileana.
The Taiwan model has successfully transformed an authoritarian exile China, Taiwan, into a democratic and progressive nation. But to my knowledge, the Taiwan model has not transformed communist China into a democratic and progressive model. So I beg the question begs, how is this Taiwan model, which is excellent in and of itself, applicable, never mind the romantic wishes, but in reality, applicable to the Cuba situation, number one? And then the question is there something we don't know about how Taiwan has influenced some of the reforms that are happening in communist China?
Yeah.
I think that's what's relevant.
Thank you.
Excellent question.
Please, this is for the whole panel. So Carlos, you want to start
The Cuban part of the,
Yeah.
not the Taiwanese. Well, I think there's a big difference between Raúl Castro and the son of Chiang Kai-shek. Raúl Castro do not want any kind of political change. He just want economic change. He will discover very soon that in Cuba it's very difficult to obtain results in the economic world if they don't change the political system. There is this decision making in Cuba is a process that is in the hands of Raúl Castro and probably another 6 persons. You cannot have a 11 million country, 11 million people country that is handled and is absolutely decided by a handful of people. That is a receipt for a failure. And Raúl will discover very soon, I don't know if he is already aware of that all these reforms will not produce what he is expecting. He is expecting that in Cuba occurs something like what he sees in Vietnam or what he sees in China, but it's a different country, it's a different society, and the results will be absolutely different. Then I suppose, and he said something very interesting about the importance of parliamentary in the political change of a country. I think that in Cuba, inside the communist structures, there is at least some institutions that eventually, not now, because now they live under fair and under, but eventually they could be the place where the political change can start. Because we know as a fact, because we had conversations with a lot of people that are in the government or related to the government, that there is an absolute demoralization in the government, which is the most important thing is the mental perception of reality. And the mental perception of the political reality in Cuba is absolutely demoralized. I mean, they know that they failed, they know after 52 years that that's a disaster, they have to change. From that point, we have a leadership that is, Fidel Castro is 85 years old. I don't know if you saw yesterday on TV, he talking about the atom. He's absolutely crazy. He's out of mind. And Raúl is 81 years old, or will be 81 very soon, and they are close to to end their mandate in Cuba. And probably this will start what we need, is a political change. The idea that through economic change you will get democracy and freedom and liberty is absurd. The change starts in the political system. And this probably we will have the same thing that happened in Spain when the Spaniards changed when Franco died. Taiwan changed when Chiang Kai-shek died. Probably in Cuba will happen more or less the same thing. When the Castro disappears, the political thing will change.
We will have
Exactly.
very few minutes because we have to finish. So about 2 minutes and 2 minutes.
Just the 2 minutes, okay.
Just 1 minute. I don't need
You
2
can
minutes.
get even
Yeah.
to 2 minutes.
One quick response. A couple of days ago, I went to Tokyo, and one student from mainland China talking about the Taiwan's elections. As Mr. Mao just mentioned, we just had a presidential election in January, and the student talked to me. She said, lots of the people they left the message on Twitter or websites talking about if the Chiang Kai-shek did not move to Taiwan, probably they can have elections right now in mainland China. I mean, I would say that is a kind of a good thing. New technology will make some change, in the near future. That is what I expected. Why do the Chiang Ching-kuo decide to change his policy, especially his policy toward the political oppositions? I would say part of the reason is he also suffered the kinds of pressure from internationally, right? So without, after the 1979 Kaohsiung incident, he find out he got to pay a lot for adopt that kinds of a suppression strategy. And that kinds of a public opinion internationally do make kinds of pressure, ask him to change. Of course, what is the real reason he decided to lose? His political dominance in Taiwan. Nobody really know about that, but I would say internationally. So that is the same strategy probably we still have to use, try to push. We try to make more impression to the Castro government at this moment. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. The U.S. factor to Taiwan's democratization, this is your question. That is also a very interesting question. I think at least I can have two responses to you. The influence to Taiwan's democratization. First, economically, the foreign aid to Taiwan helped Taiwan to maintain the balance of payment of the government. So that guaranteed at least the basic condition to the KMT to have the economic development. And the second response to your question is that after Korea War, the U.S. sent the 7th Fleet to Taiwan to guard the peace of the Taiwan Strait. Meanwhile, to give at least the minimum protection of Taiwan's security. So I believe that I would rather, but on the other side, I would rather to believe that Taiwan's democratization mostly is completed by the momentum from inside, not the outside. Okay, even that's the one factor. External factor. Of course, influence Taiwan's development of the democratization. But however, the domestic momentum should be the major reasons to facilitate the Taiwan's democratization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank Dr. Wan Cao, Dr. Xuan Li Wu, and Carlos Alberto Montaner for this excellent panel, and all of you for your attention. We're going to have a break for 15 minutes, so we'll be back at 11:05 with the second panel on the economic factors.